So guys, something very disturbing happened in Lokoja, Kogi State, Nigeria on Tuesday, 22nd July 2025. A young photographer was said to have been brutally murdered by his own neighbor in a manner that would send chills down your spine. It was around 7:30 p.m. on that Tuesday evening when Aiyepeku Ayo was busy working in his office, editing videos and photos as he usually did. Luckily, Ayo was not alone that evening. There was someone else in the office with him, quietly working alongside the talented photographer. However, the presence of this second person would have absolutely no effect on the horrific fate that would soon befall Ayo. As the two men were working, a man identified as Adebayo Pelumi, who was also Ayo's neighbor in the same compound located in the government-reserved area of Lokoja, came to call him. Adebayo told Ayo that he needed help with something at his poultry farm. This poultry farm was said to have been located within the same compound. However, it is not known if Ayo had assisted him before in this capacity. He seemed to have seen the request as a simple innocent plea from a neighbor, so he got up immediately to go and assist Adebayo. Meanwhile, Adebayo had no idea that Ayo was not alone in the office that evening. So, as soon as Ayo stepped outside the office to follow him to the poultry farm, Adebayo struck without any warning. He had come prepared with an iron rod which he used to strike Ayo on the head. The attack was swift and merciless, leaving Ayo no chance to defend himself or even understand what was happening to him. The eyewitness, still inside the office, watched in horror as Adebayo killed Ayo right outside the building. Sadly, the nightmare was just beginning. What Adebayo did next showed the calculated and cold-blooded nature of his crime. After ensuring that Ayo was dead, Adebayo began the gruesome task of dismembering his body. He had brought a deep freezer with him, which showed that this was not a crime of passion, but instead a well-calculated murder. Adebayo placed the body parts in the freezer, and as he was busy disposing of the evidence, he suddenly realized that there was another person in the compound. The eyewitness had seen everything, and now Adebayo had to deal with this unexpected problem. In a panic, he quickly ran towards the eyewitness and then successfully locked him inside a room upstairs. After securing the eyewitness, Adebayo loaded the freezer containing Ayo's remains into his vehicle and fled the scene. He may have thought that he had covered his tracks perfectly, but he had no idea that this would be the beginning of his downfall. After Adebayo had driven away with the freezer, the trapped eyewitness managed to find a way to alert the local vigilantes. The vigilantes responded quickly and freed the witness from the locked room. They immediately contacted the police and other security operatives, setting in motion a chain of events that would soon expose Adebayo's heinous crime. The vigilantes decided to wait at the premises, knowing that Adebayo might return. As they examined the scene, they found bloodstains everywhere, confirming the horrible crime that had taken place. Just as the vigilantes had suspected, Adebayo returned to the compound later that evening. It is not clear if he came back to pick something or if he had returned to finish off the only living witness to his crime. Whatever his reason for coming back was, it would soon prove to be a very fatal mistake. When Adebayo approached the compound and saw the vigilantes waiting for him, he immediately knew that his crime had been exposed. Without any form of hesitation, he jumped back into his vehicle and sped off toward Natako Junction, trying desperately to escape the consequences of his actions. The vigilantes and security operatives immediately chased after him, resulting in a high-speed pursuit through the streets of Lokoja, with Adebayo driving recklessly to avoid capture. During the chase, a shot was fired, and in the chaos, another vehicle collided with Adebayo's car from behind. The collision damaged his vehicle, but Adebayo was not ready to give up. In a desperate move, he abandoned his damaged car and ran into the nearby bushes, disappearing into the darkness of the night. The authorities recovered his vehicle and found the freezer inside, but to their greatest surprise, it was totally empty. It was believed that Adebayo had either disposed of Ayo's body elsewhere or handed it over to an accomplice. Ayo was a young man with so much promise and talent. He was a creative director who specialized in photography, using his skills to bring life and beauty to his work through his camera lens. His skills were well recognized in Lokoja, where he reportedly worked as a photojournalist for an online local newspaper called Inside Story. Ayo was not just a photographer, he was also an educated man with a bright future ahead of him. He was a political scientist and a proud graduate of Federal University, Lokoja. Those who knew him described him as hardworking, helpful, and talented. He was a young man with dreams and ambitions, and he was working hard to build his career in photography and journalism. His tragic death would not just be a loss to his family and friends, but also to the entire community of Lokoja, since he represented the young educated generation that was working to make a positive impact in their society. Meanwhile, Adebayo Pelumi, the man accused of this horrific crime, was not a stranger to violence. He is an indigene of Kogi State, but what makes this case even more disturbing is that Adebayo was a staff member of the Nigerian Correctional Service, an institution meant to uphold justice and rehabilitation. Adebayo's personal life told a different story. His wife had left him just 2 months before the murder, fleeing to Abuja for her own safety after enduring constant domestic violence from him. Reports also suggest that Adebayo was a drug user, which may have contributed to his violent tendencies and erratic behavior. There are also reports that he may have killed Ayo for suspected ritual purposes. The fact that he dismembered the body and tried to dispose of it in such a calculated manner suggests that this was not just a random act of violence. The planning involved in bringing a freezer and the methodical way he tried to cover his tracks point to something far more disturbing. This horrific crime in Lokoja is taking place just 3 weeks after another shocking case that gripped the nation. A high court in Lafia, Nasarawa State, had sentenced gospel singer Timileyin Ajayi to death by hanging after he lured his victim Salome Adaidu and cut her into about 50 tiny pieces. Timileyin had been caught carrying Salome's head in a sack with the sole intention of disposing of it. It would interest you to know that Timileyin has been caught on camera recently continuing his gospel music career by leading praise and worship in prison while awaiting the execution of his death sentence.
I need to know your heart, oh God. I need to understand your ways, oh God. That my will may be swallowed up. That's my ways.
Realistically, this execution may not happen anytime soon, since governors rarely sign execution orders in Nigeria. This crime is also happening about 5 months after another shocking discovery in Anambra State. A mother had returned from work only to find the bodies of her 3 children stuffed inside a freezer. The children had been left at home by their mother, Mrs. Ejezie, who had gone to supervise an examination in school that morning. However, when she returned, she found the door to the house wide open, which was unusual for her children. After searching for her children and finding the apartment empty, a neighbor who assisted in the search would eventually open their deep freezer where the horrific discovery would be made. The police had authorized the burial of the 3 victims, but the perpetrators of this heinous crime are yet to be caught. As of now, the search for Adebayo Pelumi continues. He is considered extremely dangerous, and people are being warned not to approach him if spotted. The fact that he was able to escape into the bushes and has remained at large shows that he may have had some help or knew the area very well. What makes the case even more heartbreaking is the fact that Ayo's body parts are still missing. Despite recovering the freezer, the authorities have not been able to locate his remains. The empty freezer suggests that Adebayo either disposed of the body in a different location or handed it over to someone else. This raises questions about whether he was working alone or if there are other people involved in this crime. The possibility of ritual murder cannot be ruled out, especially given the calculated nature of the dismemberment and disposal. The pattern of these crimes, the use of freezers, the cutting of bodies, and the calculated nature of the murders suggest that there may be a network of people involved in these activities. The authorities need to investigate these connections and work to prevent more innocent lives from being lost. Friends and families have already begun clamoring for justice to be served on behalf of Ayo. The search for Adebayo Pelumi continues, and he remains a dangerous fugitive. Anyone with information about his whereabouts should contact the police immediately and should not attempt to approach him. His history of violence and his current desperate situation make him extremely dangerous. So if you have any information that could help the authorities capture Adebayo Pelumi, please contact the police immediately. Do not try to handle this situation on your own. We hope he gets arrested soon and also made to feel the full wrath of the law. Share your thoughts on this case in the comments below, And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more true crime stories.